Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So as you can see, I'm sort of in the middle of the desert, but I'm actually in Joshua Tree this weekend celebrating the 4th of July. So I wanted to make a video because, well, I live in Los Angeles and it looks very different from here. Obviously. And this is because they're considered different habitats, ecosystems, biomes, whatever you choose to use or however you would describe it. So Joshua Tree is actually more of a desert biome, and that's because Joshua Tree is actually in the Mojave Desert of California, or I know another neighboring desert is the Sonoran Desert. So it is a desert biome, and well, California, although we have drier weather or climate, it's not considered desert, but more so chaparral. So these are all different biomes, habitats, ecosystems. Biomes and habitats, the terms are not usually interchangeable. That's because biomes are more so larger regions where weather patterns and climate and organisms are all taken into consideration. And while habitats are smaller and not as large scale as biomes. But anyway, so today's video is actually going to be about biomes. Like I said earlier, biomes are these large regions differentiated by climate and the organisms adapted to survive these climates. More specifically, plant life. Because plants form the basis of life because of through photosynthesis, I should say. But anyway, there are two major types of biomes: terrestrial and aquatic biomes. Today I won't be going into aquatic biomes though, sadly. I'll save that for another video though. That one will for sure be lots of fun. But today we're gonna be talking about terrestrial biomes. All the different types of terrestrial biomes are forests, grasslands, desert, tundra, and a few more, I believe. So the coldest biome, the one nearest to the poles, is actually the tundra biome. So the tundra biomes are very interesting. They're considered to be cold deserts. Cold, well, because they're near the poles, so they're extremely cold. And deserts because they don't receive much precipitation or rainfall throughout the year. So in the tundra, we see different animals like polar bears, maybe some wolves, and maybe other little rodents. When it comes to plant life though, in the biomes, in the tundra, we're not gonna see any tall trees. That's because there is not much precipitation. So the type of plant life we do see in tundra are mosses or bryophytes. Bryophytes being the group that mosses come from. Along mosses are like liverworts as well. So bryophytes is a term used to group these kinds of similar plants together. So mosses grow exceptionally well in the tundra because mosses stay short their whole lives because they don't have what we call a vascular system. I've talked about it before in one of my videos, but basically how plants are able to transport water throughout their bodies. Mosses don't have one of those, so they stick close to the ground so they can absorb as much moisture as possible that way, instead of having to rely on xylem or a transporting tissue to survive. So we're gonna see mosses and liverworts, bryophytes, in the tundra. Very interesting. That's why we also have grazing animals in the tundra. So again, animals depend on plants for food, since plants form the basis of life. Okay, so tundra. Something else specific to the tundra is something called permafrost. So perma as in like permanently, and frost as in ice. So beneath the surface of the ground of the tundra, there's a huge layer called the permafrost, which is just rock solid frozen ice, or yeah, obviously. So that again characterizes the types of plants that can grow. So plants cannot have roots that extend very deep into the soil because of the permafrost. So mosses will do exceptionally well in the tundra. And look at this beautiful view, by the way, not to change the subject, but wow, just amazing. Okay, so the next type of biome we're gonna go over is the taiga, or the boreal. So the taiga will receive more precipitation than the tundra, but it would still be considered to be relatively drier than other biomes. So the taiga is, there's not much going on, I don't believe. But the taiga, interestingly enough though, the taiga actually makes up, or excuse me, is actually the largest biome in the world. Takes up lots of the Earth's landmass, which is very interesting. So I believe in the taiga, we're gonna see, how should I say it? Well, there's a group of plants called conifers. Conifers because they produce cones to reproduce. They produce cones instead of flowers, as a form of reproduction. So trees like pines, for example, like those Christmas trees, the pines. So these conifers are very cool because, like I mentioned earlier, something that makes them extremely distinct from these other trees is that they produce cones. And something else about these conifers is that usually their leaves are more needle shaped, so very long leaves. And like I mentioned earlier, the taiga is not as moist as other biomes, so these needle-like leaves are a way of adapting to their environment. So the needle-like leaves actually help the plant avoid losing water or transpiration, water loss. So the shape of these needles also helps the plant not freeze during the very cold winters that this biome experiences. So something cool about these conifers is that they're also evergreens, so they stay green throughout the year. They don't drop leaves. So yeah, these needle-shaped leaves are very cool adaptation we see in conifers. Okay, so very cool. The next biome is the temperate forest, or I believe temperate and deciduous forest are interchangeable terms used to describe the same type of biome. So temperate or deciduous, I like to use deciduous more because it reminds me of like being indecisive, which is, well, actually no, I wouldn't say these trees are indecisive, but anyways, I'm just going on a tangent here. Anyways, deciduous forests experience the 4 seasons truly. So they experience spring, summer, winter, and autumn. Not in that order, by the way. So these trees are going to be dropping their leaves as winter approaches in order to stay alive and conserve energy. That's when we see the leaves turn orange, when they turn yellow, orange, and then red, and then fall off and regrow in the spring. So very cool. The temperate forests do receive more water than the tundra. Than the tundra for sure, and the taiga. I believe, yes, the tundra and the taiga. So yeah, they experience cold winters and warm summers, unlike the taiga, which is mostly pretty much always cold. So they experience cold winters and very cold winters and somewhat warm summers. So yeah, the temperate forest, we're going to find animals like bears, brown black bears, owls, different types of animals. Owls are also mainly found in the taiga as well. So yeah, I'm not really good with animals, so if you find me hesitating, it's because I don't want to like spread misinformation, so I just want to be sure. But anyway, the next biome, chaparral. So chaparral is not considered its own biome, but I only wanted to point it out because I live in Los Angeles and that's characterized by the chaparral environment. So in the chaparral, we're going to find small shrubs, which are woody usually, and the trees won't be really tall, but we will also have trees. The chaparrals also, it's going to share the same climate as the Mediterranean, so it's called the Mediterranean climate. This is characterized by very hot and dry, well, not very hot, but hot and dry summers, and then cool and wet winters. So pretty different, right? But yeah, in the chaparral, I think this is one of my favorite environments. I just love the plant life. I think the plant life of the chaparral is extremely pretty. You know, these woody shrubs are so cool to look at. So let's also talk about grasslands. So grasslands, savannas are a type of grassland. We see the savanna in continents like Africa, and the grasslands, we actually have some grasslands here in America called the prairies. But the prairies are actually an endangered environment because most of it is being used for agriculture. So something about these grasslands is that they have the most fertile soil out of all the biomes I'm going to talk about. So farmers use this land for agriculture to successfully grow food. This is where most of our grains like wheat, barley are grown, and our cereals. So grasslands are some of the main environments for agriculture because of their fertile soil again. And the reason that it has such fertile soil is because, well, this is where grasslands, like the name says, are where mainly grasses grow. So the grasses, they can either be very tall, so like corn, or stay relatively small. So the grasslands do receive a good amount of precipitation. So the good amount of moisture will help the I don't know, I'm hesitating, will help the grasses grow. Once the grasses dry out, they die, and their dead leaves and roots will provide nutrients for the generations to come. So just these life cycles, shorter life cycles of plants, will provide more nutrients to the soils, and yeah, that's why it's some of the most fertile land in the world. Okay, so we went over grasslands. Let's also talk about rainforests. So rainforests are actually the biome that receives the most rainfall in the world. So obviously rainforests. So they're forests characterized by by heavy amounts of rainfall and precipitation. So rainforests will be receiving the most water. And in rainforests, we see plants with large and wide leaves. This is because the rainforest forms, forest obviously, and this is characterized by taller plants and shorter plants. So the tallest plants, like the trees, will form these canopies. Then the canopies will take up most of the sunlight. Beneath the canopies is the understory, where lots of other plants grow. Plants that don't take in lots of sunlight, but obviously all plants still need light to photosynthesize. And then beneath the understory is the forest floor, where all the dead leaves and animal poop will provide nutrients to the plants. But rainforests are actually, I think, rainforests are the biomes with the weakest, or not weakest, but the most nutrient, the biome with the most nutrient deficient soils. So the reason for this is because although there's lots of dead plant matter, the constant pouring of water will actually leach away all these nutrients. So nutrients will be washed away and not offered to the plants, which sucks, right? So this is also why rainforests are considered to grow considered to have weak growth, because not only are these plants competing for light, so they grow very fast to take up as much light as possible, but they're also pretty nutrient deficient. So although rainforest growth is very fast and rapid, it's very weak as well. So whenever we do see trees in rainforests, their wood is not going to be as sturdy as ones we see in temperate or evergreen forests. But yeah, like I was mentioning earlier, we do see large wide leaves in the rainforest because of the availability of sunlight. So the canopy takes up most of the sunlight, which leaves little light to the plants beneath the canopy and in the understory and forest floor. So this is also where we're gonna see different types of plants like ferns. We do see mosses as well because it's very moist in the rainforest and very humid. Excuse me, it's very windy over here today, so sorry about that. In rainforests, we also see lots of insects. I believe rainforests have or host the most amount of insect species in the world. So very interesting. And well, with insects, we're going to have birds. And there are lots of birds in the rainforest, which is very interesting, right? And finally, I think the last biome that there's left, the last terrestrial biome that there's left to talk about is the desert, which is where I am currently. So Joshua Tree in the Mojave Desert. So deserts are characterized by very low amounts of precipitation. Deserts are extremely dry and very hot. So I mean, deserts obviously still do receive water. That's why we have plants in the first place. But they are characterized by this low precipitation. So then how do these plants survive? Well, plants in the desert have very cool adaptations. So, for example, as you can see here, there's green parts of the plant and dead leaves. The dead leaves will actually act as insulators and protect the stems of the plant from too much heat reaching it. And these leaves are very thin, pretty much needle-like, and very hard. So they also seem to have these hairs that might function to protect them from sunlight. So something cool about these desert plants is that they have lots of protective functions. I'm trying to look for a cacti, but something cool as well. When we take a look at cacti and we see their long stems and spines, we notice that the stems have these peaks and troughs. Troughs, yeah. So this shape actually helps dissipate some heat within the cactus, or cacti I should say. Damn, it's extremely windy here. Oh, here's another Yucca brevifolia, also known as the so this shape will help dissipate heat, which is very cool, right? And then the spines are actually modified leaves that function for protection. So animals here in the desert won't eat the cacti because of these spines, even though they would like to because they're full of water. I was looking for a specific plant, but I couldn't find one. But yeah, deserts are pretty cool. I mean, even though the land here looks pretty flat and empty, I think deserts are beautiful. When we take a look at these smaller shrubs, they just look so cool, right? Like they're still green and just beautiful. And look at this Joshua tree. Wow, just amazing. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed my video covering the terrestrial biomes. I'll try to make one the aquatic biomes soon. But yeah, we went over lots of different biomes and lots of different characteristics and plant types found within these biomes. So very cool. I hope you guys learned something. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my weekend. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.